fine with a white supremacist, patriarchal, white Christian zealot kind of rule. So I think a lot of us are having to kind of have this moment where we're like, we know this is wrong. People are really literally risking their lives now more than ever to go outside. So I don't know exactly how things are going to change, but I will say, I think between the pandemic, between 40 plus million and counting people that are unemployed, there's just so much pain in this country that's been going on for so long. And a lot of my book is about inequality. And in fact, a lot of Black people were dying. To my point, literally my 2020 is still better than my 2019, frankly, because I have more money in my pocket.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things going on right now that I think are just kind of pushing all of us in some ways to say, like, we've already been fighting, we're already using our voices, how do we take it to the next level? And I hope I'm not sorry with scatterbrain, but I just really think right now there's like no real comparison about where we've been before. So it's kind of like unknown, but I applaud everybody out there. I think it's really important that we talk about Black trans lives, Black trans women. You know, Black women are being killed. Breonna Taylor's murderers should be brought to justice. There's a lot going on right now. You can tell I'm like raw lovers. I keep talking.
No, we appreciate that. You just being raw and real. That's welcome here.
And you've been vocal for a very, very long time. I mean, your first book talking about growing up in the South as an African-American man, a gay man as well. I mean, you're really putting yourself out there, and that is scary, but it really gives a lot of other people motivation to start doing that as well.
Yeah, I'm honestly really learning to, and my second book, so I Can't Date Jesus is very much about unlearning what I thought it meant to be Black and gay, based on racism, based on religion, based on classism, based on so many different variables. I Don't Want to Die Poor is really a broader examination about inequality through the prism of like kind of exposing the facade of social mobility. In my case, like taking out private student loan debt to essentially even try to jump ahead of class, and then that's still not necessarily clearing the path. Like as you know, you read throughout the book. I think it's really important for a lot of us, particularly Black working class people, particularly people who just grew up poor, and it feels weird to even say that because you feel like you're insulting your parents when it's not it. But it's important for a lot of our stories to get out there. Because for a long time, I've just been so bored with a lot of the narratives. I write a lot online. I have for more than 10 years, so I notice how stale the conversations can really be. And one thing I've always wanted to do was, if I'm going to go into memoir, if I'm going to use my story, which I'm not always comfortable with doing, but I think it has a greater purpose. And so for me, I've always just trying to uplift the voices of people who I just don't really hear. That is queer people, that is Southern people, particularly Gulf Coast people, people from Houston, people who struggle, people like all the Black college graduates who essentially took out the educational equivalent of a subprime mortgage loan. I really am just trying to lend my voice to a lot of people who I feel like I never hear from, and you don't either.
Yeah, your journey is incredible, though, from the South to then going to Howard University, which, of course, DC has a myriad of issues, of course, and now living in Harlem, which has gone through a couple of different transformations in many different directions. Has that informed a lot about how you think of and how you frame discussions on whether it's color or LGBT issues?
I kind of realized more and more. I learned a lot about everything there was to learn about life just growing up broke. I just couldn't necessarily put it together. And like now in these days, like, because frankly, a lot of people even complaining about, like, there are a lot of Black people right now talking about how their white friends are reaching out to them. To be blunt, I didn't meet white people socially until my 30s, and that's only through work. And the realistic thing is most people in this country, it's segregated by design. So even that type of specific conversation is a very specific type of class conversation, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that many Black people, frankly, don't get to ever be around white people. So even this idea of like, my white friends are harassing me because they care. Black people like, you got white friends? You know what I mean? Like, it's just knowing that the world doesn't really work that way. Because as I wrote in I Can't Date Jesus, when I went to Howard, I love Howard now, but initially I did not like it. I found a lot of people, particularly from Houston, more like the metropolitan area, they looked at me like, oh, you're from Harlem Clark, which is the hood, all these things. How did you get here? So I've experienced classism from my own, though I love my folks, racism, classism from white people, queer antagonism from all types of people. You unfortunately learn a lot about life early on when you're subjected to bigotry or, you know, just harshness. Unfortunately, I kind of got a lot of it from my dad initially, but I hope that answered the question. I'm sorry. It's just, I'm actually really happy when you mentioned Harlem that the chopper isn't flying over. That's another thing. Yeah. Literally all morning and all night, I just hear a chopper over me, like I'm in Baghdad or something.
Wow. Where are you from in the South?
I'm from Houston.
Okay. I asked that just because I wonder if there's a perspective that you can lend us. All of us here from Chicago. I did go to a HBCU as well, historically Black college or university, proud HBCU grad, North Carolina A&T. And I can understand what you're saying, just the diversity amongst Black people that's there. Right. And then, of course, they're coming from all across the country, from all different backgrounds. I want to know what we could be missing as Northerners, as, you know, Chicagoans, Midwesterners, although I would just probably consider that the North. What are we missing?
You know, I will say one thing about going to a Black college, particularly Howard in particular, although I love a lot of AT&T folk. Howard is also the most diverse place I've ever been. Diversity goes so much beyond just race. I learned a lot about that through class, and I don't want it out poor. Think about Northerners. Actually, I will say Chicago, y'all get racism. The Midwest gets racism. And frankly, I've been more terrified in being in certain cities in the Midwest, Chicago, Milwaukee. Well, not Chicago, but Milwaukee, Kansas City, St. Louis. No, you can feel you know when you're in Trump country, to be blunt. But I will say in terms of New York, what really, really frustrates me is New York is the most racist place I've ever been. I lived in Los Angeles. It's no less racist. I heard the N-word out loud in New York. Houston, even when it was just like country and, you know, people still ride down the block with Jordans and horses, like the Beyonce videos. We love her. But
I like more. I'm voting.
Yeah. Like that's a real thing. I think for me, like I just love Southern people because one, I don't know, Northern racism is just so much actually more intense to me than in the South, because what I've always appreciated about a bigot, like for example, this week there's a place called Vidor, Texas. The only thing I know about Vidor, Texas is when you're going from Houston to all my people in Louisiana from, you don't stop there. Apparently there'll be a Black Lives Matter protest. And I woke up this morning, Black people who are from that region are like, oh no, don't go, beloved, don't go. Because the racism is so loud. Whereas if I go to a protest here down the street in Harlem, the fact is I could be pepper sprayed or beaten and down, like just as quickly. But people would assume it's so much more safer in New York, which I don't know why, because the NYPD could kill me just as much as anyone else. Even the same thing about terms of class, just because of gun access in DC. When I got robbed at gunpoint during college, I called my mom. It was overnight, and she asked me why was I so calm. She said, I said, because I could have got robbed at home for free. And I didn't mean to make a joke about it, but I also think sometimes just when you're exposed to the harshness that early, you don't really run through the world with blinders. And so that was a long-winded way of saying I think a lot of people, particularly up north, know, yeah, y'all still kind of work with blinders. Maybe not so much Chicago, but yeah, because I mean, Mayor Ron,
there's plenty of people with blinders in Chicago, in the north, I mean, everywhere. And I think that one thing that's so great about you sharing your experience, and you know, I'm a gay man, but that's my only, intersectionality, like what you go through being a Black gay man is so much different. And even within the LGBT community, there's so many issues that we need to address and face within the Black community, within the white. I mean, like, I think that while we continue to talk about differences between races and different groups, we also need to, analyze within ourselves too about what's happening.
Right. And I Can't Date Jesus. I wrote about how, in terms of media narratives, more often than not, when you talk about Black queer people, particularly the HIV crisis within poor Black and Latinx men, it's usually told within the context of sexual racism. And the problem with that is when you actually read studies, Black and Latinx men practice safe-sex queer men more than white counterparts. So it's not about whether or not white people want to have sex with us. It's the fact that we have lack of access to adequate health care. Right. That is why HIV is so much. So, but often when you talk about it in these mainstream spaces, like I put it like this: a gay Black boy who is a writer can always make a few $100s, if that, embarrassing themselves to me, writing so much about how white men don't want them. And that's not to say that we should not speak against sexual racism, but I find it very destructive when they talk about the health of people like me solely within the context and prism of whether or not a white person sexually is attracted to me. That has nothing to do with the fact that a lot of poor Black and Latinx men are dying. A lot of Black women are dying from HIV, not because of any of these other variables, but because of the fact that this country does not care about us. And there have been literally articles in the New York Times, we're mad at them right now about that Tom Cotton thing, that show you for years, like CDC, all these government agencies, frankly, just didn't even bother to reach out. That's why that's why our rates are higher. That's why we're dying, not because white men don't want us, but that is still the predominant narrative. Often not, when you float around the internet or go through magazines and stuff. It's just about decentering the conversation, really shifting how we talk about stuff. And one thing I do like about this moment now is that even this morning, some of the protesters, when some of the media actually allows them to speak, they are flipping these on their head. And that's not attack to any of you, but you know what I mean? I think we all need to be mindful of how we talk about all of these issues moving forward, because I'm just tired of like these stagnant conversations and soliloquial conversations. At this point, Lau, this country has literally fallen to its knees. It could actually get far more worse if left in the hands of this racist game show host with clear signs of cognitive decline. So now that this country's at its knees, why not we just take this time to stand up and have different conversations so we can really move forward? Not to get all preachy, my mom might actually enjoy that, but I really am bored with the conversation. I want us to move forward because I'm tired of worrying about going outside fearing for my life.
I got to ask that I Can't Date Jesus, your first book. Where'd you come up with the name for that?
It's based on a conversation with my mom. So my mom's a devout Catholic. I love my mom. She misses Mass and she misses pre-Vatican II Mass, like old school Catholic. We had a conversation where, like a lot of religious people, they actually understand that you were born gay, but what they can't mesh it with their idea of the ideology as they were taught. Instead of just so we were having a conversation and I'm just like, well, girl, I can't date Jesus. What you want me to do? So that was the title.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are you going to work on next?
Well, fortunately, I Can't Date Jesus has been adapted by 20th Century Fox.
Hey!
For a television show, but working with Lee Daniels Entertainment and Gerard Carmichael. I'm very excited about that. Just hoping that becomes a show because I really want to change the way you see people like me. And that's queer, that's working class, Southern Black folk, all of those things. I'm still out promoting I Don't Want to Die Poor. I don't advise releasing a book during a pandemic multiple pandemics, but it is what it is. And we're hoping, things happen with that in terms of transitioning to TV film. I'm just trying to figure out ways in which I can make a bigger impact all around. As an artist, as an advocate, I will say I'm at home all the time. And while I'm trying to get my head together, the old Catholic in me, maybe I have a few more books in me. It's just, I need to keep working because this economy is scaring me and I really need not to be poor.
Yeah, it's scaring a lot of people. But at least I would think releasing a book during a pandemic would have been a good thing.
In terms of the subject matter of I Don't Want to Die Poor, a lot of people say, oh, it's so much more. My book was already relevant before this because this country is grossly unequal. But I would say, while I get emails from red letters, all types of people who read my books, I am a 36-year-old Black man. A lot of my readers are young Black people. Recently, data has come out and shown that less than half of US adults have jobs, Black adults have jobs right now. So yes, my book speaks for a lot of people, but at the same time, it's actually affordable because it's trade paperback, but at the same time, a lot of people are really hurting. So, I don't have the means yet to just hand out cash to people. I donate to causes when I can. I've been buying books for folks that I know that need it because I know those student loan payments, they're not giving them much of a reprieve right now, particularly if you have private debt like me. So yes, in terms of themes, it speaks to a lot of people right now, but frankly, a lot of people are really hurting. So, and one thing I've struggled with is trying to sell my book, but also be cognizant of the fact that a lot of people are in pain right now and might not be able to swing it. So it's kind of like both. And yeah.
And I appreciate you presenting, I guess, both sides of the complexities of these issues and everything, and some of the lighthearted side as well. I mean, these are very provocative titles. One part standing out in particular to me because I am a member of the Beehive.
Hey.
When we said I Can't Date Jesus, the rest of the title is Love, Sex, Family, Race, and the Other Reasons I Put My Faith in Beyonce. Let's talk about the Beyonce part.
Won't she do it?
Yes, she does.
Well, Beyonce, she's my Lord and gyrator. She, well, you know what though? I write about an experience where I met Beyonce, but just for me, as I write in I Can't Date Jesus, I talk about how Beyonce, class-wise, she grew up better than me. But one thing I've always liked about Beyonce, but I don't think most people really appreciate, is that when people always talk about what is pro-Black, sometimes it's being who you are and it being in defiance, even at that level, means a lot. Like literally, as I write in the book, when R&B, we love Usher, legend, but when he picked up that glow stick, was talking about Oh My God, and all these EDM acts were out, the decimation of Black urban radio, Black R&B artists were truly, truly struggling. All of these things, Beyonce could have did that, and she stuck to her guns, and she did this Black sound. She did not tilt to the white gaze, even though she knew she had white fans. She has always presented all of us in the best of ways. And that is, for me, by example, how I want to do anything in my work, because to love all Black people is to love all of us. It is not to say things like guilty pleasure. It is not to separate yourself from stuff. It's not to buy into this nonsense about talented tenth and elitism, because frankly, a lot of Black celebrities are failing us right now. And it's enraging. So I look to her as a template for so many things, plus the bops, obviously. But I have been a stand for Beyonce since the No 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 video.
Yes.
If you have, I still have my high school senior yearbook at my mom's house. It is assigned to Beyonce. Everyone that knows me knows I've been on about Beyonce. I'm one of the original stands. I probably contributed to the now crazy online stan culture, but I'm afraid that we all evolve. But she's everything to me. Yes.
Yeah. I'm a devout fan as well, and I've been probably to the last 4 or 5 concerts. And this, her most recent album, I mean, my goodness, and everything she did with Netflix and presenting HBCUs and African American culture in the media on a national, international stage with Coachella. I mean, it's absolutely huge. So one thing I particularly heard her say, she said, it's not that I'm trying to be pro-Black or trying to push this narrative or agenda. It's the fact that I'm trying to just be me. I'm trying to just be myself.
What I get, so a lot of times all of us are told being who we are makes us less marketable to white people. I just literally, it was very, very difficult to sell I Can't Date Jesus and write the book that I wanted to write. If I wanted to present myself as some sad Black trope, it would have got a lot more money. It would have got, I did well press-wise and I'm grateful, but that was a lot of work too, because usually when otherness is consumed, it is largely consumed in the worst of us in pathologies. And while we can be honest about who we are, I think it's very important to talk about ourselves in our own way. And what I do love about Beyonce is that she trusts the audience. Like I have been told flat out, even by the tiny few Black people in publishing who turned me down, that with I Can't Date Jesus, my book had been done, which is not true. And then essentially somebody said flat out, they thought Black people were too homophobic and white people didn't care about Black people. And those are two things that I just reject on the premise. Plenty of white people like my books. I get many nice emails from white women in their 70s from all over the country who just hopes I find myself a nice man. And me and my mom work out that whole gay Christian thing. I get all types of gay Black boys, young white boys, Latinx boys, folks. And for everyone, if you pick up the book and you like it, you like it. Like good writing is good writing. I read plenty of books, frankly, with white stuff that I never heard of. You know what I do? I look it up. Like everyone else. I don't need to change things. I don't need to explain myself to you. I don't need to decenter my experience to cater to you. You either like it or you don't. And that is an attitude Beyonce takes that I think all of us should take, no matter who you are. If you're any type of other, you don't have to switch who you are to be consumed. Why would you want to anyway? And I hope, if anything, I really hope I get further and get to make TV shows and films to show, Black kids, but all kids, queer kids, every type of person, like, be who you are. You don't have to bend anything just to be accepted. It's not worth it.
And Mike, you're wonderful too. And we want to make sure we get the books up because we're running out of time. I want to get the books up so people can buy the books and follow you, Michael Arsenault. There's your social media handle and the website as well. Go out, buy both the books. We can't let Felicia keep talking about Beyonce, otherwise we'll
No. And just say, I really want to come to Chicago this year. I really, really did, because I really like Chicago and had a really good time. I don't want to pour with Chicago ideas. So hopefully, even if in a mass, sooner or later, I get to come back. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
We want to welcome our next guest.
I'll be right back.
What?
He has to go.
Oh,
he'll be back.
Okay. Chicagoan for 20 plus years. She is now the star of Labor of Love on Fox. The 3rd episode in this season is going to be airing tonight. It is a fascinating show as Christy Katzman tries to find a husband and have a baby too. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
This is a really unique show. And we've seen a lot of these dating shows recently that are taking really cool twists on things. So I think it's 15 guys are going to date and try to find a baby daddy and a husband. How does it work?
Yeah, so it's funny. That has been a big question for a lot of people, which kind of makes me laugh because I feel like I was very clear about what I wanted going into the show. And I guess the truth is I really wanted it all. I mean, that's why I did this. So my dream scenario was to fall in love with one of these men, but have it be a man that I could also see as the father of my future children. So that was my big goal in the situation. But, it is something that's a little bit outside the box. And so I was open to other outcomes as well. And that would include co-parenting, or just continuing on the journey to motherhood on my own, which is kind of the place that I was in when the show crossed my path. So everyone has to tune in to see what happens.
Well, and the first episode, it starts with the guys being handed specimen cups. Like, we got to see if you guys do this.
Right, I know. So right away, you know it's something different. And it's kind of funny because honestly, I didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh no, did we lose her? Or is it just
me? You still there, Christy? Looks a little frozen.
Yeah, she's frozen. I was like, wait, is it me or is it?
Right.
So I think frozen? I was just as surprised as, okay, am I still frozen?
Yeah, we're back now, sorry.
Now it's good?
Yeah, can you repeat your answer to the question?
Yes. Yes. So that was actually a surprise to me that we put them through that fertility challenge on the very first episode. And what is kind of funny is we had a huge weather delay that morning of filming as well. So I really had literally just met the men and maybe talked to them for about 15 minutes before I sent them to the mobile sperm unit. So that's quite a way to start a show. I'm sure we haven't seen that before, but I will say it was a really good way to test these men to see who was really there for the right reasons and who really was in the same place in life as I was. And that was something that was really important to me, you know, going into the whole process. So we didn't waste any time. That's what I would say.
I love this too, because you guys are all close to the same age. You're over 40, you know, like, I want to have a kid. That's kind of like now or never. So the order it happens doesn't really matter. You just want to be a mom. I get it.
Yeah, that is the bottom line. And I think that's what is different. You know, obviously this is not necessarily how I thought my life would play out. I think it's a situation for a lot of women. We do have a different biological clock than men. I think people will see on the show, however, that there are a lot of men in this position as well who are really ready to start families, but they haven't met the person that they want to have that experience with. So that's kind of an interesting thing that comes out in this process. But as a woman, you don't think you're going to be in this position. And the question then becomes, what do you do when you are? And so for me, I was really prepared to move forward with motherhood on my own, but I really wanted to have that experience with a partner. So the show kind of crossing my path when it did just kind of seemed like stars aligning. And it really was an opportunity, like you say, for me to meet a group of like-minded men who already going into the dating situation were ready for the same things as me. And that can be a really awkward thing to bring up on a date otherwise. And that's kind of the place I found myself in the last couple of years. So
yeah, I love it. A woman that knows what she wants. I'm curious if you've received any criticism for a show like this. I mean, you know, because a lot of traditional people would think, you know, you need to be married and you need to do things traditionally. A lot of people might also think, you know, look at this woman who's making her life all about trying to have kids and trying to find a partner. Has there been any criticism with this show?
Well, yes, of course. You know, there's always going to be both sides of the coin. I will say overwhelmingly, the response has been very positive, which is really a pleasant surprise to me because I knew that what I'm doing would be considered controversial. You know, to me, it's not, because not only is this my life, but it is what so many women I know are going through. So to me, this is a really modern story. This is a conversation I think that needs to be had. And I hope that this will kind of open up those conversations. And it's something that we can talk about more openly. I think at the end of the day, it is my story. It is the story, I believe, of a lot of other women out there. But all I can do is make the best decisions that I can for myself. Mm-hmm. And people are going to feel about that the way they feel, right? But I hope that maybe there are women out there that don't realize they still have options, that don't realize they're not alone. And that was a big reason for me being willing to come forward and do this publicly, because it really is putting yourself out there to do this. Yeah, and I knew going in that I had to be all in. You know, right. I've made myself completely vulnerable during this process because I really knew that was important. And it was the only way for this to work. Yeah. There was no holding back.
I choose to focus on the progressive side of what's happening right here. First of all, you said this is a conversation that we really need to have. Two things that stand out to me. One, the fact that we did kind of get screwed as women on the biological clock thing. Yes. I know it's nature and I know it's just how things are right now, but it does make me angry and frustrated, you know, that we don't have forever to have children. The other side of this conversation is something that we can for sure fix culturally. We have these conversations with our women that, you know, this is, and I know not everyone follows this path, that's okay, but we teach women to be partners and wives and parents, mothers. Well, we don't necessarily stress that for our men. We don't necessarily stress for them to find partners, be husbands, try to create units, try to create families. And I feel like that's one of the pillars of our country and our society is the family structure. But if we're not encouraging men to be a part of that, then you end up with people getting married later, which is all that's fine. I'm not trying to down people's choice to design their life, but I guess I want men and women to both be taught similar things or the same things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. And I think it is hard, and it speaks to maybe another piece of this. There are so many different options to pursue relationships, parenthood in modern life, but the conversations haven't caught up.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's maybe a little bit confused out there. I think it's important for people to understand too. In a lot of ways, I'm very traditional. You know, I'm very open-minded, but I'm very traditional. So I want to reiterate, it's not like this is how I saw things working out for myself. And I think a lot of women feel that way. The difference maybe is I'm willing to look outside the box or to consider a different way of becoming a mother than I had initially anticipated because it's important to me. So I can either be upset about the things that didn't work out the way I wanted in life, or look at the opportunities I'm being given and be grateful that I am in a place where I can pursue motherhood on my own, and be excited about that. Right? It doesn't mean that that's how I wanted things to be, but that is my scenario. And I think that is the truth that a lot of women are facing. And so there's a big question here of just what do you do? What decisions do you make when you are at that place you never thought you would be in?
Yeah.
Because also a lot of women are waiting to have kids because they have careers. I had my first son when I was 35. I have 3-year-old twins. I had them when I was 42. And it's because I wanted to work on my career first before I had the kids. But then you worry, there's so many things that women have to think about. You're like, okay, because now do I have to put my career on hold to become this mother? Or can I do it all at once? And so we always try to do it all at once. And I feel like, to Felicia's point, men in our lives aren't necessarily taught that they have to pick and choose. They can do it all at once.
Yeah,
that's right. I do think that more of a burden is always placed on women, and we're trying to juggle more. And that's challenging, you know, and I think I agree. Like I always knew that I would focus on career first. I knew that was important to me, but I also always wanted marriage and family. I just assumed it would work out.
Right.
I just assumed that would fall into place. And I think that is another good point that you're making. Like we maybe need to be taught more about that or put more focus on that. Like I know how much effort I put into my career. Why did I think the other things would just fall into place? Right. You know?
Right. But we're having these conversations and we're trying to advance it. Men are just as much a part of that conversation as well, because these are obviously the people that we're trying to have children with. And that includes them, men, not men being family focused as well, taught that. And again, not taking away a person's right to choose how they want to live their life. Not everybody has to get married and have kids, but men being taught that as well, and not taught the bachelor life. You know, I think the bachelor life is encouraged for men so much more than it is for women. But also, you know, when we talk about, I just read the Lean In book by Sheryl Sandberg.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. When we talk about men being a partner in the home, you know, allowing women to have a career, men taking all of the responsibility for raising the children, or at least doing 50-50. These are the conversations that have not caught up to where we are today. Yes, women can choose, but yes, women are still behind in terms of thinking that they can do it all. And that's impossible.
It is impossible, you know, and I think that was a big reason that I really wanted to be a part of this opportunity, because it is very difficult to pursue motherhood on your own, you know, like you say, especially if you're also, you know, juggling a career. So I do think these are going to be interesting conversations you see come out in the show. And I think one of the things I really put out there first and foremost is I really, you know, some people have said, like, did you go on just looking for a sperm donor? And I'm like, well, no, there would be a way easier way to do that. You know, the first thing I thought I was looking for was a hands-on dad. You know, I wanted a man who was really committed in that way. These were all successful men on the show. You know, I have a successful career myself. And part of wanting to pursue parenthood in a partnership was exactly that, to have more of that 50-50 split. I know myself in recent years, I've tried to make changes in my career because I think you do have the realization at some point that you truly can't do it all and do it all great, right? So I, have been working to be in a place where maybe I'm not working as many hours as I used to because I know what kind of mother I want to be. But I agree, that's a conversation and that's a compromise that men really need to be a part of as well. It shouldn't just be women having to figure out how that balance works.
Before we let you go, because we're almost out of time, I know you can't give any of the finale away. Are you happy with the outcome?
I am happy. I'm happier than I've ever been. I feel like I can tell you guys that I know this filmed last year, but I have just continued on this journey to motherhood. So I'm excited that the show is finally airing and everyone can find out how it all turned out. And I'm just really looking forward to the conversations we can all have on the other side of this.
Yeah, I'm trying to look down in the camera.
She doesn't look
strategically angled.
Yeah, to see her abdomen. What's your abdomen look like?
Thank goodness for Zoom calls, right?
Let's make sure we get the information about the show. As I said, episode 3 airs tonight on Fox, Labor of Love at 8:00. And there you can follow it on Facebook and on Instagram as well. Christy, thanks so much for joining us. You are adorable.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to have these conversations because motherhood is so different for so many people. I have a friend who just adopted a baby, at my age, and that's wonderful, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, but I just appreciate being, as I get ready to enter my 3rd decade of life. This is the time where women are making decisions of how their life should go and how they want to design it and what should happen. And I feel so much pressure surrounding it. And it's not a conversation that gets had.
Right.
Sorry about leaving you guys for a moment there. I had a little headache brewing, so I got a couple aspirin and we're good.
I'm glad you're back. We had kind of a girl's moment, which was actually really nice.
I was listening. It was a great conversation. You kept talking about men. I kept on wanting to jump in for a second, but just
that's
took
okay.
a moment.
You came back at an important time, right?
Boy, yeah. Let us bring in, it's always a riot when we talk to these people, but that was probably a poor choice of word in this time, but it's always an interesting point of conversation with these folks. The Tci Crew is joining us right now. You guys, Kendra, we got Leon, and hopefully Kyle is joining us in here soon.
Kyle's on vacation.
Oh, sorry about that, Kendra. How y'all doing?
Yes, we are here.
We can do it without Kyle. We don't need
but she has her dog that's filling in.
My dog is Philadelphia, though. She won't answer us, Kyle.
Puppy.
I miss you guys.
How was your birthday celebration, Kendra?
Oh my God, it was amazing. True story, and I'm going to show you how messy my place is. I turned into Jamaica, and I still have yet to take down all the... Look at that. It's still like half Jamaica. I need to clean up. I need to come back to just be in Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, we're also glad that Leon's joining us back from space. That's where he was the last time.
Yeah, nah, man. No, my unfortunately my mood and my mode has been a little like I'm 90% away from where I need to be. So, it's been work trying to keep a level head with everything that's going on out here.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you guys. I was, following y'all on social media as a dude, that you guys felt the need to jump in on Sunday afternoon and start that conversation. It was one that, it should never wait, but it couldn't wait till Monday. What was that like talking to people in the moment when so much stuff was going down?
Well, one thing I would say is, for us, the moment really began on Tuesday when we saw the video of George Floyd being murdered. I just got to be honest. Some people just caught up when the news started focusing more on the looting and the buildings burning. But most of us have not been right since literally 7 days ago. So, we went in early that Sunday because the temperature in Chicago, I will say this, I never thought about how there were going to be riots and looting outside of Minneapolis. I thought when it first happened, that city was going to just really be feeling it, right? And then as we know, Friday, we saw protests everywhere. So that was, for me, I was gonna be like, oh, well, it's dope, of course, but I wasn't expecting that. And then when we saw where it was going to in all the cities, it was just a need that we knew we had to come in and talk about it.
What I appreciate about you guys' show so much is that it's so entrenched in the community, the GCI morning show, and each of you guys as personalities. And you share a lot of their viewpoints, people calling in to talk about what's going on. And I think that's therapeutic in itself. Based off of what your show Sunday and what you've seen over the last few days, Leon, what do you think is the pulse of the community right now?
The pulse of the community is anger. And unfortunately, that anger is going to linger, and it's been festering and building. Like I said before on a couple other affiliates that I've sat in on and talked about this is one big grease fire. And it's been a grease fire that's been burning for a long time. And America keeps throwing water on this grease fire. And as we all know, sitting here, you cannot put water on a grease fire. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think this right here is going to be a tipping point. And if these police officers, the time they get and everything, because right now, America's on edge and all eyes are on Minneapolis, Minnesota. And this grease fire could get bigger if we don't start. This is the first chance for America now to throw sand on this grease fire and get it down a little bit. Yeah. Because if they don't, we just going to be 100. If they don't, it's going to be crazy out here. It is going to be chaos. We could be looking at a civil war, race war, whatever you want to call it, but it's not going to be pretty. So all eyes are on Minnesota, and I hope they do the right thing. But right now in the communities, when I talk to some of my little guys, they're angry. They're angry, you know, and I'm not talking about the looters. I said there are two types of people out right now. There are people looking to expose the racism, corrupt police departments, bad police officers, and bad people. And then there are people that are looking to exploit George Floyd's death by looting and by tearing up neighborhoods and so on and so forth. And that's sad that it comes to that.
Well, and I will say too, and I'm pretty sure I know what your response is going to be, but you know, we're talking about getting the country unified together, and we're certainly not getting directions from the man at the top, right? And the protests and walking out to the church with the Bible. And
listen, I don't even like to recognize the fact that he has a name. I just call him good old 45. He's a person that spreads vitriol. He spreads hate. I mean, you can even go back to his statements where we're telling police officers maybe police officers don't be so easy on people when you got them in cuffs, rough them up a little. This is the message from your commander in chief. So how can I sit up and honor somebody like that when and as an African-American male, when I see, and we can take it back to Rodney King. He didn't get killed, but he was beaten, crazy. Cops get off. Sandra Bland. When you start thinking of all the names and all the people and you look at the color of their skin, it's like, damn, do I even matter out here? And as for me as a Black man, I have to temper my anger because it's like, do I even matter out here? I think about my family. I think about the job I have to protect. Somebody asked me how I really feel about everything that's going on. I can't give you my real feelings on TV. We could sit down in a room and have a conversation. Yeah. I can tell you how I really feel, but I can't honestly sit here and tell you how I really feel because I wouldn't have a job anymore. Yeah. Flat out. And that in itself should tell you how I feel.
I gotta ask, I feel like this is really, this is different than situations we've seen in the past. You have a lot of, let's just say it, we got a lot of white people who are finally waking up a little bit more than they should. At least that's what I hope. And that's what I want to know. Like, I feel, as someone that considers myself, aware of my privilege, but still learning every day, I feel a lot of people in Batavia, in Lake Forest, in Naperville, maybe waking up a little bit.
Wakanda.
Right. My opinion, though, is that people are waking up to show a front to try and calm things down. I just hope it's genuine. And so I want to know, like, what are the signals after this calms down a little bit, if it does, that we mean business when we say we are going to stand up for our Black brothers and sisters?
Well, can I respond to that? I want to respond to the part when you said genuine first, right? So I know some people kind of got offended, but on Sunday, I made a post and I said, if today's the first day you're making a post about George Floyd, I'm looking at you sideways. Because see, what happened was, like I said, over the weekend, the riots and the looting and the marching that wasn't necessarily peaceful was all over Instagram, was all over CNN. So the country had to pay attention. You can no longer ignore. But to me, when I saw the video, like I'm up here today with no makeup, I am so emotionally drained. And I realized yesterday how I might need to see a therapist, because what happens is this: we don't talk about Black people just being tired. We have been watching people that look like us, been on videotape, pleading for their lives from the cops. And then in the past, the cop doesn't even go to jail. So on Tuesday, You know, you literally watched this man scream for his dead mother. His mother is not even living. He was telling you he can't breathe. There was no compassion shown. And I do believe, now to the other question about the genuine, I do believe that there were some people that now are paying attention, because the video of George Floyd as a human, you just cannot deny that. You cannot deny that as a human being, that was completely wrong. So I'm very happy that people of all races more than ever has joined into this march, and you're finally listening and understanding why we say Black Lives Matter.
John, I want to piggyback on that too. I think the key word Kendra said, that listen. I think now is the time for people, not my brothers and sisters, non-colored brothers and sisters, just listen, just be quiet. I don't need you to talk. I don't need you to say anything. I need you to listen to this pain from the Hispanic and the African-American communities. I need you to listen. That's all I need you to do. And if you're a smart person, when you sit and you listen and you really listen, you will start to understand why we feel the way we feel, why I can go out the house by myself and get treated a certain way, but John, I could be with you and be treated totally different. And when I leave you, you'll still be treated the same. I'll go back to being treated the way I was, or the hatred might stem so hard, they might get mad at you for hanging out with me. So until people just start to listen, and we on our side, people of color, start speaking in unison, not arguing with each other, trying to get our points out. Everybody on one accord, solidarity. I've been preaching on the radio after Blackout Tuesday, which we rocked with. I've been saying community, positivity, solidarity, with the key word being on solidarity. If we're not all talking about the same thing and pressing these damn aldermen in our cities, start at the lower levels of government, which affects us immensely. I mean, it can get to the top, but right there, the aldermen, everybody, superintendents, the people that are close to us that we can see and reach out and touch, we need to have them affect change first and then move it up the ladder. But we all got to be on the same voice. We all got to have the same voice. So I just need everybody to listen right now. Just listen. That's all. Just listen.
So much is being said right now. I think I do appreciate the dialogue and the honest conversation that's happening. A few weeks ago, I don't think we would have heard the word Black so many times on television, just in terms of how they refer, and I'm speaking specifically for news because we talk about it a lot on this show and you guys talk about it a lot, but they weren't saying Black people and Black communities. It was deemed as urban communities, minorities, people of color, all these whole veiled terms to refer to people. I guess I'm hopeful the fact that we are using the term Black people are saying this, Black people need this. Even just that term was something that I think the general media was afraid to use.
Yeah. And the verbiage is important.
It is.
In the media, verbiage is important. The same way with the looting that was going on, to hear people being called savages, criminals, hooligans, right? But when Denver lost, I remember when Denver lost the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they tore Denver up, but they said disgruntled fans. It's simple things like that that paint a picture. And trust me, the people that are watching the news, you know what I'm saying? The Black and Hispanic people that are watching the news, some young minds, they feed into that. You know what I'm saying? They feed in. I just saw a video last night in New York. Somebody came through playing The Purge, the horn of The Purge, the movie The Purge, and started playing the soundtrack. And the kids were in the street going crazy. That's not what we need. You understand what I'm saying? But that's a narrative that's being pushed. They show that, and everybody thinks it's cool to go out and loot because they're playing the purge horn. It's stuff like that we got to get away from. The verbiage that we use, I try to be careful. Looters, they're committing a crime. They're committing a crime. They're absolutely committing crime. But I'm not going to call them animals. I'm not going to call them savages. I'm not going to call them hooligans, because stuff gets looted all the time when teams win NCAA championships and everything else, but they be like the euphoric fans.
Right, because even looting is rooted in systemic cultural differences that have been built over time. I mean, there's a background to that too.
Can I add one thing about the looting real quick too, just to piggyback? Because I think, first of all, I don't agree with looting or rioting, right, at all. But I understood where it was coming from. You got to realize people have been out of jobs for 2 months, no income, waiting on a stimulus check. Then you have, again, we don't understand that the Black community, we're dealing with mental issues of seeing dead people all the time. That's not normal to take in. So at this moment, they express their energy in ways we could all agree were not appropriate. But on the flip side, Colin Kaepernick, to me, this country needs to give him the biggest apology ever, because he showed the example of peaceful protesting and America didn't want to pay attention to it. So much to the point now he got kicked out of the NFL ultimately for it. But now all of a sudden I see so many people kneeling. And I'm like, wow, this is exactly what he was talking about. He lost his job for this movement in a peaceful way, but y'all really did not hear it. You didn't hear the cries of these people until they literally set it on fire. So I appreciate what happened because of it. I don't agree with it, but I do appreciate them speaking so loud. It worked.
So let me ask you guys this too, because Leon, you talked about, contacting the aldermen and doing stuff in the city. And I hear you say listen to, which I really appreciate. But what would you like to see? Like, I live in the suburbs, right? And I'm not in the city. I can't call your alderman and help out. What would you like to see from people outside the city looking in?
So people outside from the city looking in, this is how you can help. You got a mayor. You know what I'm saying? You got a mayor, you got people out. Like I live in Lansing, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of my family and stuff is in the city, but we have issues in the suburbs too. It's everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It might not be as bad as in the city, but we have issues out here too. So you get on your mayor and tell your mayor to get on their mayor or get on their alderman. It's just the power of the word. It's being forward and upfront. And actions, you know what I'm saying? We could talk all we want to, you know what I'm saying? It's like when you're dating somebody and you tell them you ain't gonna cheat again. This is what I feel like is happening to us. Yeah, I ain't gonna cheat again. I ain't gonna do it no more. I love you. But then 3 weeks later, guess what? They cheating on you again. And this is what I feel like America tells us all the time. Police brutality is terrible. We're gonna make this where this doesn't happen anymore. Then 3 months later, another Black man is killed senselessly in the streets. And if it wasn't for videotape and being on video camera, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. Think of all the people that get whooped and beat up and messed up, and nobody's there to videotape it. Think how many people get away with it. And I caught some flack from some of my police buddies, especially Black officers, when I said, how can you wear a badge with the blood of your people on it? And they said I should not be held accountable for, a few bad cops. Well, if you know they're bad cops and you're working with them, why you ain't doing nothing to get them off the force? That's how I feel. Because no way, I don't think I could sit next to Kendra and Cal and be a hate monger and they wouldn't check me on it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand
I
what
was
I'm
literally
saying?
about to bring that point up, Leon. I mean, I call for more accountability within the police department, from within the police department. There needs to be some kind of whistleblower action or some kind of improved way, because you know which one of your coworkers is a slacker or not a hard worker or just shows up, or so they know as well who is racist or who is not a good officer or who should not wear a badge. They know, but there's no safe way for them to speak up and point the finger and get the bad apples out. But I want to say the same thing to your question, Amy, to the white community. You know who's in your community who should need to be called out.
Who's in your family? Who's at Thanksgiving
in your
dinner?
family? Yes. You know, and if you don't know because you're not having the right conversations with your friends. You're not having the right conversations with your family. So we need white people to police other white people, to call other white people out and speak the truth. I think that's a way, and we're saying listen to the Black community, have this dialogue. I so appreciative of these open conversations. And obviously I'm working with two co-hosts who I absolutely love and adore, and we have some real conversations. But we have that here, but I also want, and I know you guys do, but I want you to go out to your communities in circles that I can't get in or don't fit in or just don't have, and have these same conversations.
But
And
it
then
shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be a circle that you don't fit in, Felicia. See, that's what I hate, that we even have to say that, a circle that I don't fit in. You know what I mean? The fact that we're even saying that means that I can't go talk to y'all. Yeah, so when that drunk uncle was cracking them racist jokes at the family picnic, check his ass. That's not cool. Because if he's cracking them to y'all, he's definitely going out in the world saying that stuff.
Right.
100%.
I wanted to add this too about things when it comes to change. I think we have to realize that we're living off of a constitution and laws that were created, and I'm just going to be blunt, by racist white men. You know, our country is not reflected by that. I really feel like we need to change a lot of the laws in the Constitution and laws in general, and have everyone in the table, have white men, black men, white women, because at that time, you know, I said men, women weren't even allowed to voice their opinions in the laws that were created. And what's happening is we still live off of laws that truly benefit the white man more than anybody else. I don't understand how you have a murder on television, on video, but yet we still have to have a trial to prove that he actually killed him, and then he may not still go to jail. So I feel like you've been hearing a lot of this terminology this last week called systematic racism. And I love this one video that explained it. Like, let's talk about the school system. The school system is funded by the property taxes of the neighborhood. Well, if you live in a neighborhood that doesn't have high property tax, that means you won't get that much money to your school system. So that's why there's better school systems in what we call white neighborhoods, because they have better houses, they have more money to fund into that school. But just because of where you live, your education won't be the same. And it starts there. So we have to change so much. If America is honest about fixing the problem in this country, there's a lot of change that has to be made.
Yeah, we need as many Black voices at every single table as possible. Not only rising up in businesses in terms of what boardrooms look like. I mean, it was 1993 before we had a Black female senator in the United States. 1993. And then we went many years without any African Americans in the Senate within the last 10 years. After Roland Burrs, who I worked for, left the Senate, we didn't have a Black senator. That was 10 years ago. Yep. Yeah. And that is on every community however you got to do it, you've got to get more voices in power in all sorts of places, in politics, in boardrooms, in communities, in schools.
Well, because it benefits every community, not just the ones we're talking about that are disadvantaged. Every community will benefit.
Well, and we see what's happening now when that's not done. Every community is being hurt. And we can look at it from whatever angle we want to with the coronavirus and bad healthcare in the Black community. It's a virus. If it's if Black people are getting a virus, they're spreading it to everybody. That's how a virus works. The same thing about the systemic racism that's going on. It's primarily affecting the Black community, but look what's happening now. Yeah. White businesses are being burned down and closed too. It's literally affecting everybody.
Oh, but see, now here's the part of Leon that I try to suppress.
Bring it out.
That's when everybody wants to be friends. That's when everybody wants to kumbaya and let's make everything work. See, let's for example, 9/11. Look at the country. When the towers went down, it was hands across America. You know what I'm saying? The most racist dude in the world still wanted to hold my hand because he was targeting Muslims. You understand what I'm saying? That they were the people that
there was a new enemy. They
were the new enemy, right? All right, 9/11 happened, boom. Coronavirus comes, hey, we're all in this together. Now these riots and stuff kick off. Hey, everybody, let's be friends. But what about when we clean up? What about when things go back to normal? Then what is it going to be? Now I'm gonna stop being your friend then. So this is what I tell people. My friends who are white and Asian, I tell them, I say, if you ain't in the boat, don't get in at all. I don't need 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You either all in, you either with us or you against us. And I hate to put it like that, but that's just simple as it gets for me. If you can't, like Drew Brees, as much as a fan of I was as him, I can't rock with him no more. I can't rock with Brian Urlacher no more. I can't rock with Tiger Woods anymore. I don't care how many apologies and stuff. You gave me your true feelings. Your truth, somebody hit you with truth serum and you spoke your truth. And that's what 45 has allowed closeted racists and bigots to do. Speak their truth. I ain't mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I actually appreciate you because I see you out in the open now. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to worry about who this, I can see you. And I know. And when all this is done, I still know who you are. Don't go back in the closet, be out and open with it. I respect you more as a man and a woman if you out in the open with it and keep it 100. But I can't rock with you. If you're not rocking with us, stay on the other side. It's cool. Know how I feel. I just don't need
guys,
you over.
We got 5 minutes left. I do not want to leave this conversation without some clear action items. I mean, I love everything that we're saying, and I fully embrace the rage and the emotion and the trauma that we're discussing here. I think we need to talk about some action items. We spoke about, you know, encouraging our white friends to also talk to their white friends in their family. I think that that's a clear action item. We talked about tax dollars, and we've been talking on this show all week about what we always do, but about supporting Black businesses and how that affects our healthcare when we talk about coronavirus, how it affects the education in our schools, it affects our housing. I want to make sure we leave this conversation because we only got 4 minutes left now.
Yeah, please, you keep on talking. That clock keeps going.
Yeah.
I would say briefly, just again, I want the laws to be changed, but right now we're in a situation where the law is set up where you have to voice your opinion by voting. So you have to do whatever you can do to vote. But you know, again, I don't want my heart to break. I would vote for Daffy Duck before I vote for Donald Trump. I will vote for Casper the Friendly Ghost before I vote for Donald Trump. You know where my vote is going. But I'm gonna be honest, the way this country's set up, if he was to get reelected, it wouldn't even surprise me. So, but use your voice and vote.
Before you vote for Daffy Duck, write my name in.
Right. Listen, the great W.E.B. Du Bois said a system cannot fail those who is not meant to protect. So understanding that going in, my people of color, we have to, and it's going to be this is not an overnight change. Yeah. This is something that's going to take years of systemic stuff that's been going on to us for years. It's going to take years to change it. So we got to start now. We got to build our own. We got to create our own. We got to create an infrastructure and work from within inside. Listen, somebody who we thought was absolutely nuts and crazy said this years ago, and we laughed at him for it, Kanye West. And now, I'm not the hugest Kanye West fan of stuff he says, but years ago when he said George Bush doesn't like Black people, he was expressing what was going on then. And now come to this day, he's always talked about infrastructure and building our own. And people looked at him like he was nuts. But it's time to start listening to people. It's time to start. Minister Farrakhan has always said we should have our own, build with on the inside. You know what I'm saying? Other great people, Dr. Claude, Kendra G, what's the name of
Dr. Claude Anderson.
Dr. Claude Anderson. A lot of people be saying build from within, and that's where it has to start. We have to build from within. We have to start raising future politicians to get in here and make stuff right. You would think coming off an 8-year term of a Black president that we would have gained some ground, but we ain't gained nothing. So it's time to start building from within. It's going to take a while. But that's unfortunately, that's what it is. But right now, like you said, use your power to vote. Do what you can. But we got to work from inside and start making our own money and doing our own things and supporting Black businesses, supporting Hispanic businesses, which I try to do all the time, you know. So I'm hoping Tyrone Sanchez starts a grocery store. I'm gonna be in it every day.
I hope I meet somebody one day named Tyrone Sanchez.
Yeah, I'm like, best of both worlds. I'm coming to shop with you, homie.
It seems like such a silly thing, but this morning I was trying to, I consider myself like a student of history, right? Like I love history. And history is taught by the people who run school departments and run these things. There's so much about Black history I don't know much about. We even had Brandon Pope do a story about Fred Hampton. I didn't even know that whole story. I think it seems like a little thing, but it helps frame your reference for everybody out there who does not know about certain stories of what has happened in Black America to spend 10, 15 minutes reading up on some of this stuff too, because I think that a little education goes a long way in framing the current conversation.
Hey, John, and Black history is American history.
Exactly.
So, period. So it's a lot of our babies that don't know Black history because they ain't teaching it in the schools. They give you a month. Man, Black History Month, It's me. It's not a month. It's all year.
Right.
I wanted to say one thing real quick to add on to that. I'm not sure how much time we have, but me and Felicia talked about this. Some Black people don't know the history, like Leon was alluding to, because they didn't teach us. When we went to Africa, it was the most I really learned about what happened and how our ancestors got here. So you're absolutely right. Do your research, but I feel like when this all comes up, Black people, you need to really go back to Africa to really understand who you are and how you ended up in this country. It will enlighten you to a whole different level.
Before the transatlantic slave trade, because that's when our school system starts talking about Black people is slavery. And there's a long history way before that.
Right. Yes.
Beyonce is not Harriet Tubman, y'all. I gotta say that. You have some of these little kids now, they be like, who freed the slave? Beyonce. Went to the left, she told everybody to go to the left. Nah. It's deeper than that. Pick up a few books and read. And I encourage my white brothers and sisters to pick up a few books and read. Pick it up and read. And just read and listen and listen. No more talk. Just listen.
Yeah.
I appreciate our friendship and our dialogue that we've developed over the past couple of years for moments like this where we can have honest and frank conversations with each other and other people. I hope it's happening at all sorts of levels too. Leon and Kendra, I thank you guys so much for stopping.
Hey, you know when I like to have these conversations with people that I think is suspect, I'll get some alcohol in them. Just sit for about an hour, and then I'm like, oh, okay. I always thought you was on BS. Now I see.
You think it's in this mug? I mean, come on.
I love y'all, man. I
appreciate you guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you for using your voice, and I hope you feel energized to continue doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
It's cereal time.
And of course, you can catch them every morning. GCI, great show, 6 to 10 a.m., 107.5. Kendra, Leon, and Kyle, who's on vacay. Great conversations as always.
I love it. Yeah. You know, it's so interesting too that Leon said this because Todd and I had a conversation last night because we have a couple of friends who voted for Trump. And I said, I don't think we can be friends with him anymore. Like we need to have this conversation because I know for them it was mostly economic, but they're by not voting against it, you're supporting it anyway.
You're complicit.
Yes. And that bothers me a lot. And so I said, I'm like, I don't know if I can hang out with these people anymore.
And that's happened all over the country.
Yeah.
That's what happened. There's so many people that say, well, I don't agree with President Trump's tweeting, or I don't really agree with that part that he just said.
Right.
But he does support, he does not support abortions, or he does support guns, or it's these one issues that voting that has done it. And it's just all connected.
I know. And I know what you're saying, Amy. That worries me as a country, right? Where we can't reach across aisles and find some compromises and things. That's my political mind worrying about ever reaching any sort of agreements. But this doesn't feel like a time for compromise, right?
Right. That's what I mean. Like right now, you can't, I can't forego that at this point.
Right.
You know?
No. I know we're going to move on. One thing, one point that really popped in my head when Leon brought up W.E.B. Du Bois was in learning our history and the fact that how can you get a system to work for you when it was never set up for you? And I just thought about policing. Like, I don't think most people know enough about Black history, but specifically with policing, the fact that policing was created as slave catchers. It started as slave catchers. So now we have this organized system of policing that still has never been set up or created to assist in serving and protecting Black Americans or people who are not white.
Yeah.
That was just one point that was sitting at the tip of my tongue, guys. Thank you.
Go on forever.
I'm going to do a really quick weather report before we transition out, just to mention that we got a lot of sunshine across the area. Some high level clouds as well here and there, but it is a warm day. It is a humid day as well. Just a gorgeous look at our downtown area right now. We're going to hit 89 degrees today, probably at O'Hare. We will have a lakeside breeze, meaning it's a little bit cooler near the lakefront, probably about 5 to 10 degrees cooler. Tomorrow's going to be another warm day as well as we look at the 7-day forecast. And we get cool for the weekend, a really comfortable Saturday and Sunday. We get hot again into early next week and get some rain. And actually this rain from Tuesday to Wednesday is remnants, will be remnants of Tropical Storm Cristobal as it makes its way up the Gulf. It's kind of stagnant right now in the southern Gulf. As it moves up the Delta and up through our area, we'll probably get clipped by some rain showers with that too.
Yeah. Let's keep it moving, guys. We actually have one more guest for the day that we want to make sure we get in. We want to welcome Elaine Frey, who is the founder of Luft Balloons, and they've been working to spread joy across the Chicagoland area. And on the heels of the conversation we just had, I know people are like, oh, we're, creating balloons. However, we all need to walk in our path, and we each have a role to play. And so this is what Elaine is doing to try and do that. Elaine, hi, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We just got off a pretty serious discussion about the state of things and what's going on. You have decided to help and tackle that and help improve by using your art.
Yeah. The conversation needs to happen right now, as we know. We want to make sure that we don't remain silent, and we use our platform that we can to help kind of, I guess, dissolve this racial bias that's occurring in all white people. And I thought with balloons, we could start to use it as a visual connector for protests and for putting on people's balconies and everywhere. And that's why we've created this Black Lives Matter burst. And, we're just trying to do our best to show up and figure out how to contribute and get this conversation going.
And I love this too, because you're talking about something as simple as balloons, but they're very visual, they're elevated. And these are things that we need to do, make this conversation visual and elevated so that we're all having it and we're all seeing it.
Look at Amy with the metaphors.
Yeah, that's a thing that, like you said, balloons do. Right now, everyone is putting them on the outside of their houses as, celebration moments. And so now I feel like it's this great way to say, let's start this conversation with a neighbor or somebody that you're just walking by and they're coming out of their house, and to say, how can we get better as a society, and how can we start to talk about the uncomfortable? I think for white people, the problem is everyone is trying really hard to say, I am a good person, I want to help, but they feel insecure and uncomfortable about how to start. And I'm hoping this is just a small opportunity to say, hey, things need to change, and I'm on this side, and this is where we want to go forward.
Well, right. And there's strength in numbers, right? Like walking around in June and seeing the pride flag everywhere makes me feel safer as a gay man, and knowing that people have my back. I think where you're based out of in Lincoln Park, I'm in Lakeview, predominantly white neighborhoods. If we can get some visual representation, I've seen it on the sidewalks, I've seen it in some windows, that yes, there are a lot of us that need to have these important conversations. We have your back in a sort of way. It's a visual reminder of that. Yeah,
for sure. And we're using it also as an opportunity to, everyone's giving resources out. But we felt like it was a long list of things of just like, okay, here's 1,000 things, go figure it out. And so we're trying to make it very pointed. And so I just spoke with, this guy up at Tesfa African restaurant up on Wilson. And I said, hey, I want to mention your restaurant and tell everyone, let's go to your restaurant when we hand out these Black Lives Matter balloons. And so the idea is that we're going to make very pointed things to help start, that connection between Black community and everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you guys started a GoFundMe page, right? So you can continue to do these like Black Lives Matter balloon installations, correct?
Well, we haven't started. We have the GoFundMe for the hospital installation. So we're also doing hospital installations for frontline workers. For free as well, to acknowledge all the stuff they're going through as well. But when you pick up your Black Lives Matter burst, we will have a donation method, and then hopefully that can go to community organizations that we can partner with. Right now, we don't have a specific one in mind. We're just trying to figure out like how can we connect. But yeah, so when you come, you can certainly donate, and we can. Right now, we have 3,000.
I got a list
so hopefully that will get through next week.
Alicia, what were you saying?
I got a list for you.
Okay, great.
Looking for a couple organizations I can definitely,
please share.
Add some.
I think
Okay,
that
fantastic.
your story is interesting because, this is what you guys do. You guys make balloons and you're using that as the vehicle for change. I think a lot of us, we maybe try and reinvent ourselves or come up, how can I help? Do what you do. And in that job that you do, in that life that you lead, that is your vehicle. The vehicle's already there. Use that as the mechanism to help talk about why Black Lives Matter and to bring about change.
Right, right. I mean, because if you don't make it part of a consistent conversation of your business, then it's not going to stay current. It's like the Me Too movement. It has to stay part of your business mission. Your manifest. Like, well, how are you operating and making sure that that's not relevant, but that you are continuing to act.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing like we talked earlier about the ripple effect of, the protests and then the riots just where they happened, and then it ripples out to other things, right? The same thing is if you talk to the next person in your family, it's a ripple effect, right? Of good this time. So that's why we need to keep this conversation going.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, we were just talking with my team this morning about, this can't just be a blip of June, and how do we keep this going? And so, we said, right now we're a delivery team of one, and we said, we can't service Southside, but that's not because of the Southside. It's just because of distance. And so when we can add another delivery driver, I want to make sure that we're saving that person for communities that we can connect with. And then, we are additionally, we're picking out books, each month to kind of that we're going to hopefully ask our community to read with us and start to really use it as an opportunity to keep the conversation going and keep talking and keep working. It's going to be a lifetime of change, and it's not going to happen overnight. And it's got to start with my little kids, that I have conversations with them, and that we have conversations together. And we're just starting. And but I'm hopeful. I'm very, hopeful that things are going to move forward.
No, I just wanted to let you guys know I put in the comments a tag to My Block, My Hood, My City, and Latanya and the Youth of Inglewood. They're two organizations that we have had on the Jam. They are both 501c3 organizations that are working to help support the Black community. They've done it before now that everything's going on, and they have shifted and pivoted to make sure that they are providing the support that's needed right now. And so just putting that out there to anyone that's listening, I put in the comments, but there are a number of other organizations as well. Those are two that we've had on the show.
That's great.
Sure.
We want to make sure we get the information up on the screen for your organization as well, so people can support you and all that you're doing, both for the frontline first responders and for Black Lives Matters as well. So luft.balloons is where you can find them on Instagram, luftballoonstore.com, and then the information for the GoFundMe there at the bottom of your screen as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me and including me in the conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, best of luck to you too. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Elaine.
Awesome. I think that's amazing. She's using her platform and what she brings to the table and her artwork and where she is in the world to help advance the conversation. That's what's needed.
Yeah, for sure. I actually think we have a little video of what they were doing at Loyal. It's a stunt. It's a really cool visual. I know we showed the Black Lives Matter one. I meant to ask her while she was still on if we could show that video of what they were doing for the hospitals, because we can't forget, obviously, during this crazy time, this important time, that there's a lot of other, we still are dealing with a pandemic, and first responders are still going to work and trying to make it better. So they've got some great stuff there. So shout out.
I always just I marvel at them transporting these things, because they're huge.
Yeah.
You definitely need a mother minivan. You need a minivan to do that. Let me tell you.
Vanzilla.
I ain't gonna fit in my Mazda. About 6 balloons in there. Boy, today it's like a deep breath after that show.
Yeah, that's a lot, and it needs to be a lot. I mean, it's what it is right now, right?
Just got to find ways to keep this momentum going. We cannot go back next week to, obviously conversations change and there'll be other things that come up that we talk about, but like everyone's got to harness everything you have right now. It's like when a baseball team scores 20 runs in a game, and you're like, save some for next week. We need to do that too. We need to make sure that we have that energy and can progress that forward. But we're continuing more conversations tomorrow, of course.
Yeah, we've got lots coming up tomorrow. We've got 36th Ward Alderman Gilbert Villegas at 9:00 for our news segment. That's your Ask the Alderman segment tomorrow on our Facebook Live, 9:00 for news, and then 10:00 we've got some fun.
Yeah. Dustin Kendrick's going to be joining us. from The Bachelor, of course, a friend of the show. Going to find out what he's up to these days as well.
Okay, guys, make sure we are tuning in for a fabulous Friday. We're looking forward to it. 9 a.m. for news, 10 a.m. for all the fun. See you
Go
then.
out there and do something today, people.
Yeah.
There you go.